Welcome to this last video where we're going to explain the audience engagement workflow, or in other words, how is it that audience members can share their perspectives in real time during a meeting? As before, audience members also can access Prtanium through the landing page, but as I mentioned in the previous video, generally speaking, what audience members will do is be given a meeting link, just like they were joining a Zoom meeting or a meeting, right? And so you might have sent the link via email or text message or social media, whatever you like. And when they click on that link, if they click on the link before the event begins, they'll end up at what we call the pre-event page, right? And the pre-event page gives a description of when the meeting's going to start, the title, the description of the meeting, who the speakers are. The organizers can kind of broadcast messages to participants in advance of the meeting. I showed you previously, right, that you can post an event guide, issue guide, some reading material that gets participants to think a little bit about your topic before the event begins. There's a guide for how to use Prtanium. Event countdown clock. But then what participants can do is they can log in to their account and they can even start asking questions before the event even begins. So I'm going to log in this case through participant account. And so now I've joined through a different account that's just not the same account as my organizer account. And now if I want, I can ask questions in advance of the meeting or make comments, and that would populate the question and comment list. So, this is an event on K through 12 mental health. So what should we do to find more funding for K through 12 mental health? Right, and so participants can pre-ask questions, and they also can send direct messages to the moderator team. So will you be sure will you make sure the speaker understands not sure what people would ask in advance, but they could ask things like that. Okay, so now you can see that I've set the event to start a day from now. But what I did in the moderator screen was I just pushed the start event. And so, because you're actually, obviously you have to start and stop the events manually. You don't want to just kind of automate that. And so when the participant gets logged in, once the event begins, they automatically get directed into the event itself, and they get some instructions about, how do you ask questions, how do you send direct messages, how do you update your language? So right now we can update, the language can either be English or Spanish, but we're working on making that more general. As always in the event, they get to see the title, the description, the speaker. As I mentioned before, we generally do our streaming through Google Meet, but I've just put in an archive video in here as a placeholder just so you can see what that looks like. And so once the participant is in, the main feature that they can see is this ability to ask questions and give comments in real time during the meeting. So they can help to populate the question and comment list. And then their engagement with the question and comment list looks a lot like engaging with social media. So they can like other people's comments. And if they like it, the participants can't see how many likes each comment gets, but the moderators get to see the number of likes a question gets. or if they like some other user's question and they want to amend it or elaborate on it in some way, they could do kind of a quote. It's sort of like doing a quote tweet. Okay, so that's the question and comment list. As I mentioned before, that you can do direct messaging, right? So the direct message that I sent to them to start the event is there, and I can reply to it, sure, exclamation point, will do. And so the moderator team can directly reply to the participants by feedback. And they also get to see the list of participants. So again, if there was 100 participants, they would see the list of who else was in the meeting with them. Okay, and so again, the main activity in real time during the meeting is they get to populate the question and comment list, and then the moderator can decide and use their curation tools to decide on kind of an effective flow for the meeting and which questions to pose to the speaker, which are always going to be posted up in this box here. But then also, as I mentioned before, we can prompt participants to share their thoughts and to respond to survey questions. And so that's when we use the prompt response the feedback response tool. And so when we do polling within the event, we can just the organizer can send out a prompt for the audience members to respond to, and when the facilitator does that, a blue box appears up here, and the participant can X that out if they want. But if they want to respond, then they can choose which response they like the best. In this case, we made the reasoning box optional, so they could just leave the reasoning box blank and press submit, and we would just collect the distribution of preferences. But if we had made this reasoning box required, then this submit button would stay gray until the person explained the reasons for why they supported the answer. And so a lot of times you want to require that reasoning, because it's important not just to understand what audience members' preferences are, but to really understand their perspectives and their reasoning for why they support different perspectives. And so, and then obviously when we close the poll, we can share the responses back with participants, as I showed you in the previous video. And so the way that works is we can share the responses back. The participant can submit view responses, and then they get to see the actual the summary. They don't get to see the raw responses from other participants, but they get to see the AI generated summaries. And then they also get to see the distribution of responses and which response was more popular. But of course, what's important here isn't so much the distribution of the popularity of the different responses, but it's the reasoning that audience members provide that to support each of the different options and why people might support. And so each audience member gets to see what's the reasons for their fellow audience members have for supporting different options, and that helps to get them out of their echo chamber. Okay, and so that's pretty much it. And so generally speaking, the workflow in the event is that participants can populate the question and comment list, but really Protanium events are driven more by the feedback response tool, because that's what enables the audience members to directly share their feedback with the speaker. Okay, well, thank you so much for watching these explainer videos. And if you have any questions, please navigate to the Protanium landing page and you'll find our contact information there. Thank you again.